Look at the left side of this diagram. Human biology follows a straight line. You are born, you grow, you die. But on the right, plants follow an infinity loop, cycling between two completely different physical forms. This loop represents alternation of generations. To complete one life cycle, a plant physically transforms into two distinct bodies, taking turns generating the next phase. This legend box holds the baseline rules for your exams. Rule 1 is the Gametophyte phase. This body is haploid, denoted by N, meaning it has only one set of chromosomes. Because it is already haploid, it produces gametes through mitosis. Rule 2 drops into the legend, the Sporophyte phase. This body is diploid, or 2N. Here is your major exam trap. Unlike human biology, where meiosis makes gametes, plant meiosis produces spores. Decoding any plant's biology requires tracking the balance of power between these two alternating bodies. This circular schematic maps the life cycle for primitive plants, like mosses, the Bryophytes. We split the board. The top half is haploid territory, and the bottom is diploid territory. In the haploid top half, we see the main moss body. This gametophyte is the boss. It is fully independent and photosynthetic, handling all the plant's energy needs. To reproduce, gametes from the top half fuse in a process called syngamy. They cross the threshold into the bottom half, forming a diploid zygote. That zygote grows into the sporophyte, drawn here in the bottom section as a stalk physically attached to the leafy gametophyte above it. It undergoes meiosis, releasing spores across the boundary into the haploid phase. At this early stage, the haploid generation holds almost all the structural and metabolic power. Moving to pteridophytes, like ferns, we see an evolutionary flip on the schematic. The diploid sporophyte is now the dominant leafy plant taking up the majority of the cycle. Meiosis occurs directly on the undersides of those fern leaves, dropping spores across the boundary and into the haploid phase. The spores develop into the gametophyte, a tiny heart-shaped structure called the prothallus. Even though it is heavily reduced in size, it remains independent and photosynthetic. We are tracking a clear shrinking trend for the haploid phase. Predict what happens to the gametophyte in massive gymnosperm trees. Here is the final gymnosperm loop. The massive pine tree completely monopolizes the life cycle, pushing the haploid section into a tiny sliver. To secure your 5-mark difference questions on the WBCHSE exam, we map this concept onto a strict comparative table. For the dominant phase row, we trace the shift. The gametophyte controls the bryophytes, while the sporophyte controls both pteridophytes and gymnosperms. The ploidy of the main body follows the dominant phase, haploid N for mosses, jumping to diploid 2N for ferns and pines. Finally, gametophyte dependency. It starts as the independent boss in bryophytes, remains an independent prothallus in pteridophytes, and becomes dependent in gymnosperms. These abstract circles show the entire evolutionary macrotrend, the steady shrinking of the haploid phase, and the aggressive expansion of the diploid phase. By mastering this shrinking and growing rule, and trusting the baseline definitions of sporophyte and gametophyte, you can confidently reconstruct any plant life cycle on your exam.